We're gonna start a 1-minute timer right now. And that's gonna be our early bird timer. I think we're gonna jump right into some Sasquatch Chronicles too. That time. That time.
Make it rain. Make it rain. Make it rain. Make it rain. Karaoke.
Those sounds are so awesome, man. You got your early birds coming in. Couple seconds. Here we go. Now to figure out what raffle we're gonna do. I think because Mr. Knot is here, we need to do a knot lock raffle. I'm up for some Orlag if you guys want to do some Orlag knot. $21.14. Yeah, I tell you what. F it. We're just gonna do some R4, some Sasquatch Chronicles. First of all, let's do a test raffle. Make sure. We got a 5-minute test raffle going on. Can you guys that are not sponsors, please try to enter the raffle? Okay, good. We're looking good for non-sponsors. Alright guys, let's find some Sasquatch Chronicles. There's a new episode out tonight.
Do that, please. show planned for you tonight. Going to be speaking to Zach. And Zach comes to us from Michigan. And he had an encounter, a very recent encounter, near his home. And he thought he was being surrounded by coyotes, ended up trying to escape, and then looked back and actually saw one of these creatures up in a tree. But if you listen to Zach's encounter, coyotes doesn't make sense. Animals don't come in on you like that unless they're actually going to attack you. And it's just a very, very interesting encounter. And as a side note, again, this is close to where Zach lives. And his home, they've had a lot of strange things happen around his home. His mom is convinced a peeper has been coming up to the home for many, many years, looking in the windows. So stay tuned for that. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. And I know it's Tuesday night, but I'm testing out my studio, trying to get the sound dialed in for you guys. And I hope it's a crisper, clearer sound as you guys listen to the show. I'm constantly trying to improve that, and it might take me a couple shows to get it dialed in, but thank you so much for being here. Let's jump into it tonight. Zach, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here tonight.
No problem. It's an honor to be here.
If you would kind of start from the beginning. Tell us what you're out doing, and then walk us into what you saw.
All right. Well, around the time, I was 19. It was 2 years ago. I was 19. Around the time I was doing a lot of hiking in the state game area that's around my house. It's about 10 miles from my house. So I just go up there and do some hiking by myself usually, and well, around that time, I started hiking with some friends, and we bought hammocks and stuff, and we'd go out there and camp. And, I had my eye on this small patch of woods. It's probably about 5 to 6 acres long and about an acre and a half wide. And I had my eye on the back corner of it because it looked like it had a grouping of some nice pine trees. And, I just kind of wanted to get out there and, see if I could find anything. And that day, I think it was a Monday, it was before work, it was around noon, a bright sunny day, went up to this little patch of woods, and there was a drive that went into it, so I drove into it and parked and got out and started walking, just a normal, there's nothing strange about it, I didn't have a bad feeling at all, and so I started going to the outskirts of the woods, and, I get to the outskirts, and I think it's the DNR. They do their annual controlled burns where they burn like the grasses around the woods and everything. So they get like a tractor and everything, and they dig trenches around the woods. Well, so I was walking in one of those, and it just makes it for easier walking. And I'm walking along the edge of the woods, and the elevation of the land started to drop a little bit, and I kind of noticed that it was dropping, and when it started to drop, I don't know, I just got this weird, almost vulnerable feeling, like it was like all of a sudden like a pressure drop or something. I don't know, I just didn't feel right, and I just kind of got this thought in my head, well, now nobody can see me. And, not that there was anyone out there anyway, but I don't know, just kind of a thought that popped in my head. And I'm walking along, just looking for a hammock spot. And I got a really slight smell of death, like what you would smell from a deer riding on the side of the road. And at first I thought it might have, been coming off the road that I drove in on, but there was no wind at all. So we just figured that that soon I'd stumble upon like a old coyote kill or something. There's a lot of coyotes in the area. Well, I didn't see anything, and it was kind of weird because it was just so faint that I thought, for sure the next couple steps I'd see something. And so I didn't see anything, and I'm walking along, and then like right to my left, right in the woods. You know, it was pretty dense with bushes and everything. There was just this gnarly growl that came from the woods next to me, and it was probably like my hip, thigh level, and I just kind of lifted up my leg real quick and felt like, you know, oh shit, a coyote, and I heard it like scamper off, and it kind of covered a lot of ground when it scampered off. It was low to the ground, and you know, at the time I really wasn't thinking about it, but it did cover a lot of space when it moved. It was definitely on all fours, and it was really, the growl was pretty mean. I mean, it was not friendly at all. It sounded pretty pissed off actually, and I just figured it must have been a mother coyote, and she was probably going back to her pups. So I thought that was pretty crazy that I ran into a coyote out there. And I'm still walking along the edge of the woods, just kind of brushing it off, and figured if I left it alone, it'd leave me alone. And then, so the land kept decreasing, and, you know, the weeds are getting taller and taller as the land's decreasing. And so I make it to the corner of the woods, the area that I wanted to explore. And I turn the corner, and, like, I don't know, I got this horrified feeling all of a sudden when I turned the corner. It was nothing like I thought it was going to be. It was just all picker bushes and tree limbs sticking out on the trench now. There's more weeds, so I can't see very much, and the weeds are pretty much over my head. And for some reason, like, I don't know, I almost started to get panicked. There really was no reason for me to feel that way, because it wasn't like I was being chased. You know, I wasn't hearing branches breaking or anything like that.
Fuck!
You know, I just felt this like fear come over me, and I thought about like running to the road that goes north and south from that area, but it was like 800 yards away, and you know, my odds of outrunning a coyote aren't very good, so I decided to stick to the trail that I was on, going straight ahead. And from where I was at this point, I could see the road that I came in on. The bad part about it was, like, the trail was just overgrown with pickers and, you know, just all kinds of nasty stuff that you really don't want to walk through. And then the woods to my left is nothing but bushes and just thick stuff. And so I'm walking along, feeling kind of spooked, and I get to this point to where you can't see the dirt of the trench anymore. It is just completely overgrown with pickers and, you know, just thick stuff. There's just a really thick bush over to my right, and then to my left is just all woods. Well, I get to this point where I'm stopped and just kind of thinking what I want to do, and then something comes from a tree that off in the woods, like behind my left shoulder. Something just starts coming at me at a pretty quick pace, and it's not being quiet at all. It's like it saw me and it just started coming right at me. And it's breaking twigs and stuff on the ground, and it's going through bushes and this dense, thick stuff like it's not even there. And at this point, all my focus is on this one thing, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, it must be like a pack of coyotes, and this one's probably like the lookout or something. You know, it's coming right at me, and it goes way past the point where I thought it would stop. Like, I thought this thing was going to come right at me. So I didn't have my phone on me or my knife or anything like that. There were no sticks nearby for me to grab, so I just balled up my fist, was basically all I could do, and I just waited. And this thing gets like 10 feet away from me and stops. And I know that it's staring at me, and I'm looking as hard as I can to try to see it, but I can't see anything. It all of a sudden it just turns and starts going off on an angle, but it starts going in front of me this time. It came from behind me, and now it's starting to go in front of me. And for some reason, I just started really freaking out, almost like I was trying to keep calm, not to be panicked, but in my mind, I thought like I was being set up for an ambush or something, because it didn't, it wasn't trying to be quiet at all. It didn't care that I was hearing it or knew where it was. It was just coming right at me, and then started going off in front of me a little bit, off into the woods. And I thought, that I was being outsmarted by coyotes. I thought that one was being noisy and was distracting me while, other ones moved in and crossed the trail while I had my attention focused on this one. So I'm thinking that there's probably a coyote in the weeds behind me now. And I'm standing next to this bush that has like a tunnel underneath it, like something's been going in and out through there. So something could have easily crawled in behind it and been right there. And for some reason, I was just envisioning like those were my last moments on Earth. I just couldn't believe that I was going to go out like that. Emotions started happening, and I just thought, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die making a move for my life. So before the other coyote that went in front of me, before that one could get around and start coming through the weeds and through the weeds and toward my legs, I decided just to try to hurry up and get through these weeds that were pretty much over my head. And as I'm doing this, I'm just looking all around for any movement at all behind me or in front of me or wherever. So the road that I came in on is in front of me, and I thought about going all the way to it and just walking the road back to my car. But then I thought about, well, if there's a couple coyotes on me and one pulls me down by my arm and, the other one gets me up high, I don't have a chance. So I decided the woods was clearing up to the left of me a little bit. And I thought, well, if I get attacked in the woods, at least, I could maybe climb a tree real quick. And so I get into the woods, and I'm about 30 feet in, and, I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing a coyote or anything in there. So I turn around, and I'm looking at the weeds from where I just came from. And I'm expecting to see, like, coyote shapes or, grass moving or something. And there was nothing at all. And this jet black arm that was like in the trees towards the back corner where I was. It was like up in the trees. This jet black arm just glides to another tree as I'm turning to take my step, and it did it on my blind spot to where I wouldn't have seen it unless my head turned. I don't know. It was it did it on my blind spot to where, I shouldn't have seen it, but just by chance, I happened to catch it as it went to another tree.
How big was the creature, and what was going through your mind when you saw it? What did you think it was?
My dad is about 6'3". It was up in the trees, so it was off in the woods, kind of up in the trees, so it's kind of hard for me to tell the height, but I would say it would probably be in between 6 and 7 feet. And it wasn't gigantically muscular or anything like that. It was actually more on the skinnier side, but its arm that stuck out, I mean, it was really long. Its arm was really long, I know that, and it wasn't super skinny, but it was more on the skinnier side. Yeah, it was just jet black, blacker than black. And when I first saw it, I was just telling myself, nope, didn't see it, did not see that did not just happen. And I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I just I was breaking sticks and little twigs and whatever, and just getting to my car. I just wanted to get to my car, and yeah, I just thought it was like, I didn't think Bigfoot at all. I just thought
To another edition
some
of
sort of creature. I mean, the way it moved, one of the reasons why I wanted to get to my car so quick is because the way it moved and how quick it was, and just so graceful with what it did. It could have been right on top of me in seconds. I mean, that's how quick it was going through the trees like that.
So was the creature on the ground and grabbing a tree and just going in between trees, or was it actually up in the trees?
It was up in the trees. It was probably 10 feet below probably 10 feet below the tops of the trees. It was high up in the trees. And yeah, I just happened to turn and catch it, just reach out and grab that other tree and just glide right to it. Just so smooth and fluid. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was, even just kind of thinking about it, I feel pretty uncomfortable. Ever since then, I've never gone back to that small woods, and anytime I'm out in that area hiking, I'm always with somebody. Now I never go alone. I mean, there's been other weird things that have happened out there that while I was with somebody else that, it's definitely, people really don't, they'll say you're crazy and everything, and it was just this or that, but from listening to your show and just picking up little tidbits of information, with every show, you start to look for little things like that with their behavior and just how they move. One of the things I pay attention to is like noises that come towards you, and not like most animals, they'll go away from humans. I pay a lot more attention to noises that are coming towards me, but keeping their distance at the same time. And there's been a couple times out there where, me and a buddy's been walking on the road, and at night, full moon, and all of a sudden, I've heard something come through the. I just wanted to take him on a hike, and it was actually across the road from that woods. Something knocking on the tree, just this knock, 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 knock. And then it would do it again and again and again. So I decided to do it, and it didn't even face the thing. It just went right through my knocks. Like it did, it didn't even, it seemed like it was pissed off.
And it's not far off from them being up in the tree. I saw one up in a tree about my size. And I've talked to many other witnesses that have seen them up in trees. A lot of times these researchers or investigators, whatever they call themselves, they will talk about smaller ones being up in trees, but rarely will you ever hear them talk about larger ones being up in trees. And I talked to a gentleman probably 2 months ago that had an encounter in Oregon, and he was talking about, we were talking about the size of the thing, and he was about 6 foot, and he said this thing was only about 6'5", and it was up in a tree. And he thought a monkey got loose, and a monkey was up in a tree until he got closer and realized it wasn't a monkey. The other thing, too, with your encounter, a lot of times, I can't think of one instance, I'm sure there is one, of coyotes going after a full-grown man. Coyotes generally don't go after full-grown men. They're very opportunistic. Don't get me wrong, a small child or something like that, they will snag it, no problem. But a lot of times, they're opportunistic type predators to where taking down a full-grown man probably isn't going to be worth their trouble. So they're generally not going to mess with you. I mean, I've been out in the woods at night and had them run around us in packs. All they did was yip and bark and just be annoying. But they've never actually come in to attack. And I can't think of an instance when I've heard of coyote attacking a full-grown man. Generally, they don't. When you were walking through this high brush and this thing took off and it growled at you, did the growl sound like what you would expect from a coyote or from any other known animal out there, like a cougar or anything like that?
Well, the growl happened before I got to that really high grass and nasty stuff, but the growl, it didn't really sound a dog, I guess. It sounded more chesty. I don't know. It was really mean, but at the same time, it didn't have the same like I don't know. It didn't really sound like a dog, but at the time, just because of how like mean sounding it was, I just figured it was a mother coyote.
Yeah.
Just she probably had pups nearby or something, and yeah, it didn't really sound like a dog or anything like that. It just
That's what was going through your mind at the time. That's what you thought. Which
yeah,
makes sense.
I mean that's just what I figured.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Most of the time with predators, they won't rush you like that and then stop and look at you. Most wild animals, if they're going to rush you like that, you're going to have some problems. They're coming in for a fight. Let's say it was a coyote.
Yeah.
I don't think you actually ran into coyotes out there. And you may disagree with me, but that's not normal coyote behavior for it to come rushing in like that and come barreling at you and then stop and then try and cross your path. And if they come in like that, you're in some trouble, even if it is a coyote. And like I said, most of the time coyotes just don't attack full-grown people. I'm not saying it can't happen, but generally speaking, it just doesn't happen. You're too much of a hassle for them. You're too big of a target to take down for a coyote. Even a pack, I think, is going to back off and probably look at you as too much trouble. When you saw the creature, how far away from you was the creature?
It was probably like 70, 80 yards. Yeah, it was off in the woods more from where it was more towards the corner of the woods where all that tall grass wasn't to where like it kind of it came at me. Yeah, it was more in that area, so it was probably like 70, 80 yards away, up in the trees, up high in the trees, and it was keeping its distance, but at the same time it was definitely following me. It was watching me and following me, and keeping tabs on me. But I mean, it just glided to that other tree, just just so it was almost like it reminded me kind of a spider, just how it moved.
I understand what you mean. It's so fluent from, it's a fluid motion from one tree to the next. It's such a smooth motion. I can definitely see how you would feel that way. So what happens next? Do you finally get to your car?
Yeah, at that point when I caught a glimpse of it, I wasn't, before I was kind of being quiet to not to be noticed because, I thought there were coyotes around. So I was trying to, trying to make as least noise as possible. And, when I caught a glimpse of it, I just pretty much, I didn't run, I didn't jog, but I mean, I was moving at a good pace. I was stepping on sticks. I kind of wanted it to know that I was leaving, so I didn't really care if I was making noise. And finally, I got back to my car and got in and started it and was just kind of like looking up at the trees, just scanning all of them all around. I just thought to myself, oh my God, the trees are like it's spider web, and and just that thought just creeped me out, extremely bad. And I just got out of there and never went back.
Did you tell anyone about this encounter?
No, I didn't tell anyone. It took me a while before I even told my friend about it. It was, I mean, I would tell people that, yeah, coyote growled at me, out on state land, and actually just recently is when I finally told my friend about it, and he was pretty open to it. He didn't really judge me, but I did try to tell my mom about it. I told her about me being growled at, and she's like, oh yeah, there are coyotes out there, and she was going at it. And then a while later I told her, yeah, I think I saw this black thing too glide from one tree to another, and I got the whole, oh Zach, and it just wasn't, it just wasn't worth my time to even go any further. I just kind of stopped it there, and I haven't brought it up since. I mean, none of my family even knows that I'm having this interview.
Do you think it was a coyote? And do you think you ran into this creature separately, or do you think you ran into something else out there?
I think that I think it was the creature that I saw was the thing that growled at me, because as it kind of like scampered off into the woods, you know, I could hear it on all fours, but it seemed like it was wide. Like the steps were pretty wide, you know, from one sound to another, and it just seems like they were kind of wide apart. And you know, it went off into the woods there. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was one creature.
And that's why I was curious if you thought it was still a coyote that you ran into. I wanted to ask you about this other encounter you had. I think it was about 15 years prior in the same general area. Your home is near where this encounter took place. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. It was probably about 18 or 19 years ago.
And if you would kind of tell us what happened.
Yeah. Well, when I was little, I'd always have this nightmare of seeing this giant gorilla, you know, outside my house staring up at the moon. You know, I just recently, you know, listening to your show and everything, I kind of popped back into my mind, and one thing led to another, and I remembered seeing these red lights in the window. And just to paint the picture, at the time, you know, I would have been 2 or 3, and my bed was below the window in my parents' room, and it was late at night. It was a full moon, and the moon was in the western part of the sky, so it had to have been late at night. And I remember waking up and just looking up at the window, and I saw these 2 red lights just kind of come around the corner and look in the window. And they looked like these kind of these oval shaped Christmas lights that my mom would string around the Christmas tree. So that's what it reminded me of. And I remember, you know, seeing 2 of them, and I kind of got excited, and I, you know, stood up in my bed, and then like things, I kind of got confused because it didn't make sense to me, you know. They were a little bit different, and you know, I couldn't make sense of it in my mind, so I pressed my face up against the window for a closer look. And when I did, you know, I'm you know, pressed right up against to these, like, what I thought were lights, and I noticed a little bit of yellow in them. And when I noticed a little bit of yellow in them, I saw these wrinkles go up below the eyes. Then this thing backed away from the window, straight back, and it had just this Grinch-like grin on its face, just this wide smile, and it walked straight back to the pine tree that's in front of the window, and it went underneath the pine tree boughs, and it disappeared in the shadows. And all the time while it's backing straight back, it's looking at me eye to eye, and it's looking at me, whatever, and it goes straight back underneath the pine tree, holding its grin the entire time, and it goes right up against the trunk. And when it went underneath the tree and up against the trunk, you couldn't see it. Like, you know, if you looked there, there'd be nothing there, but I knew it was there. I knew it was still there staring at me. And I remember looking to my left, which on that side of the house, there's like this maple tree, and then we have our garden there. And when I looked to my left, there was this what looked to me like a giant gorilla staring up at the moon. And at that moment, I just remember just getting this creepy, like as a child, I couldn't really understand anything. but I just remember just getting this feeling that wasn't right, and I immediately ducked down into my bed, and I don't remember what happened after that, but my house is like 10 miles away from the state game area. The thumb of Michigan is all woods and farmland. You know, there's swamps and things like that, but, you know, it's just, you know, all farmland and just one woods connected to another that can go on for miles.
Do you still live on the property?
Yeah.
Have you ever gone out to look and see if you can find any footprints? Or, I mean, have you actually gone out to kind of explore the area around the home?
I have actually, and actually, I mean, there's stuff that's still happening today. There was one night where I had incense going out the window in my room, and my room's on the second floor, and below that is the living room, and then right below that is my mom's room, what would have been my parents' bedroom. And my mom, you know, she's always telling me that there's this peeper around that looks in our windows. And, you know, for the longest time, like yeah, whatever, you know. She actually, like, put a string of fish hooks out there one night from, like, connecting the old antenna that's right out, that goes all the way up to where my room window is. And she tied it to this bush, and, you know, we went out there one day, and the whole line and the hooks were gone. So I don't know whatever was out there looking in got snagged. Just this past summer, actually, well, when weird stuff started happening around our house again, like I said, I was upstairs in my room. I had incense going out the window, and I heard these two heavy footsteps step right below my window, right in front of the living room window. It was just weird, you know, because I'm hearing this, and, you know, and I'm thinking, man, there's, you know, someone's out there. And then I heard, you know, shortly after that, I heard this, put a string of fish hooks.
Unji, congratulations, man. G.
To another edition of Thunderdome!
All right, we're going to start a 2-minute timer. On a 30-minute raffle, we'll do 2 minutes.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Bueller. Yeah, we're about to be drawing a new winner here, NG.
Do it!
Rip your 7,000 coins.
Do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
Bueller.
You have 20 seconds to comply.
It's a trap.
Okay, new winner. Here we go.
Bueller, Bueller, Bueller.
Nice, buddy. Okay, I see your IGN there. Congratulations, guys. Well, I'm gonna let this roll out, and we've got a credit roll here. We need to put up our winner.
Right out that goes all the way up to where my room window is, and she tied it to this bush, and you know, we went out there one day, and the whole line and the hooks were gone. So I don't know whatever was out there looking in got snagged. Just this past summer, actually, well, when weird stuff started happening around their house again, like I said, I was upstairs in my room. I had incense going out the window, and I heard these two heavy footsteps step right below my window, right in front of the living room window. It was just weird, you know, because I'm hearing this, and you know, and I'm thinking, man, you know, someone's out there. And then I heard, you know, shortly after that, I heard this quick tap on the maple tree in our yard, and then I heard like another tap, just this ping sound come off the metal antenna that's going up to, you know, just that metal antenna. And actually, like the next night too, I heard the same heavy footsteps that I heard the previous night step below the window again. And you know, I get home from work at 11, so I'm like the only one up. And this happened in between like 2:30 and 4:30. So I'm the only one up, and you know, I can hear whatever, something heavy stepping below the window as clear as day. Yeah, I did go out and look for footprints, and this one time I thought I might have seen a pair of footprints, and they were underneath the pine tree bough, and they looked like they were right together, you know, side by side, like something had been crouching there. And you know, they look like your classic Bigfoot print to me, but I got my mom out there, and I was showing them to her, and she said that was from the cats. You know, we have a couple outside cats, and she said that was from the cats digging, you know, in the pine needles. So I'm like, oh, all right, well, you know, I guess.
Your mom's straight up gangster putting up the fish hooks. That's I like that.
Yeah.
What made her think that there was a peeper over there? Did she ever say why she thought that?
Yeah. Well, actually, for years, she thought that this peeper was around, and it's because that, you know, that she's heard heavy footsteps, like someone wearing big boots, you know,